Live on MaxDefender8.com, powered by Bernetti PA. Here's Chief Meteorologist Jeff Berardelli.
All right, everybody. So, things have really heated up in the tropics, and now we're talking about the possibility that something could develop in the Western Caribbean and move in our general direction by about next Tuesday or so. There's a lot of uncertainty in this forecast. You remember last year with Hurricane Ian, we knew about 8 days ahead of time that it was going to be a major problem, that it was going to be very strong, and it was going to end up in the eastern Gulf of Mexico. Here we are just about 5 days before there could be some type of tropical storm in the eastern Gulf, and there's less uncertainty. So every single there's more uncertainty. So every single situation is different. And in this particular case, we have a system that's going to be emerging from the Pacific Ocean, moving across the Yucatan, so across land. Then it's going to try to get its act together in the Western Caribbean. At the same time, it's going to be battling a lot of wind shear in the Gulf of Mexico. So it's unclear as to whether it's going to win its battle with the wind shear and become a bona fide tropical system, or if we're just going to get the tropical moisture. We really need the tropical moisture. I don't have to tell you that if you live in the Tampa Bay area. You likely are somewhere between 5, 10, and 15 inches below normal for the year. We are in severe to extreme drought. All right, so I want to show you what's happening on the maps here. We'll go through the maps. I'll take 2, 3, 4 minutes or so to do so. And then I want to ask you for questions. And I'm monitoring our Facebook page. I have the Facebook page open right there. But again, just give me a couple minutes to get through some of these maps so I can show you what's going on. All right, first things first. And that's a look at atmospheric water vapor for next Tuesday. So you can clearly see there's some storm that the European model says may form just to the west of Tampa. The other models, like the German model, like the Canadian model, they show a system a little further south and a little weaker than the European model. Then the American model says there isn't going to be a storm at all. Barely shows any moisture at all. So one of these models is going to be wrong, either the European model or the American model. The truth likely lies somewhere in between. That's typically the case. So first, let me show you what's going on in the Atlantic. And don't worry about the stuff you see in the eastern Atlantic. Neither one of those pose any kind of threat anytime soon. Obviously, Emily's remnants, that's moving straight north. The one behind it, we'll continue to watch that. But again, the things that we're watching more closely are Franklin, which just moved across Haiti and the Dominican Republic. That's moving towards Bermuda, could become a hurricane over the next few days as it approaches Bermuda. But for us, for our interest, we're concerned about that question mark that you can see on the Pacific side of Central America. Now, there's something called the Central American Gyre. It's this really big circulation system. It's very common this time of year. And what it's known for is uncertainty. It'll sometimes kind of spit out these disturbances. And because it's so big and, because it's so complicated, it's right over Central America, oftentimes it's hard to know exactly how things are going to emerge and then how they're going to develop afterwards. So again, I just stress there's a lot of uncertainty. But we do think, we've seen more model consistency over the past couple of days, that this thing is going to produce a system in the Western Caribbean. The question is it going to be a real system or just tropical moisture? So let's take you to the tropical satellite. There's Franklin. And then right behind it, there is that question mark. And again, you can kind of see the gyre, right? You can kind of see the circulation in the upper levels there that could produce some type of system. So let's fast forward to Friday. And you can see that the low has now moved across Honduras and into the Belize area. And there's, in the upper levels, that's the wind way up at jet stream level. And you can see how it's a clockwise wind flow. So that indicates an upper level ridge. Upper level ridges are very calm environments. They're nurturing environments, kind of like an incubator for storms. And so the storm's going to be located there, whether it be disheveled, disorganized, or a real area of low pressure. That's really the question. But it will have an opportunity, a window of opportunity to develop while it's in the western part of the Caribbean. Notice there's a lot of wind shear across the Gulf of Mexico. Had the system come right now, it would just get completely sheared apart and shredded. However, the models disagree on this. How is that shear over the Gulf of Mexico going to evolve early next week? The European model says that an upper level low is going to form in the western Gulf, and the shear is going to kind of part, if you will, like parting of the Red Sea. Some of the shear is going to go east, some of the shear is going to go west, and the system is going to be funneled northward in the eastern Gulf of Mexico by that upper level low. Not all the models agree with that, and this is the most aggressive scenario, but the European is a good computer model, so we want to take it seriously. If this were to happen, the upper level low would actually aid and abet the low-level circulation and allow the system to become a little bit stronger early next week. We don't want that scenario to pan out, but we do want the moisture. So let's show you the moisture progression over the next couple of days. You can see it's bone dry across the Bay Area. We had some storms tonight. Those are now moving out. After that, it's mainly dry tomorrow. It is bone dry Friday, dry on Saturday, dry most of Sunday, which means, by the way, we're going to be at record levels, 96, 97 degrees each day. And the moisture will start to increase by early next week. So we'll see those heat index numbers start to go up. But at that point, all eyes will be focused on what's happening near the Yucatan Peninsula. And you can clearly see the European model already forming that circle, that circulation, and all that moisture is kind of coming together and coalescing into a bona fide tropical system by early next week. And you can see all the tropical moisture kind of moving from south to north, carried to the north. European model has the storm west of Tampa and has tropical moisture funneling our way. That would increase our rain chances by Tuesday and Wednesday. We really need it. The Canadian model and the German model actually have the storm make landfall somewhere around Sarasota and Fort Myers, although we're not talking about a tremendously strong storm. On most of the models, it's a modest tropical storm, right? But when you have water temperatures as hot as they are in the Gulf of Mexico, and you may end up with some type of evolution of the upper levels that is conducive for development, you never want to discount these storms from being stronger. To be honest with you, the latest European model has a low-grade hurricane in the eastern part of the Gulf of Mexico, so got to keep our eyes on it just in case. This is the reason why we are hopeful for the tropical moisture, because you can see just how far below normal we are. You know, about 6 inches below normal in Brooksville for the year, but from Tampa south, it's more like 10 to 15 plus inches below normal. And so we need the tropical rain. We certainly don't want the storm that comes along with it. All right. So with all that said, I'm going to refresh our Facebook page, and I am going to take some questions from you. Okay. All right. Let's see what we got here. Oh, Brent says my sound keeps going out. Not exactly sure why that's happening. Steve says it won't. Weather reports say 100% chance of rain, which really means 50%. Partly cloudy, maybe a drop of rain. So Steve obviously lives in our area and is frustrated at the fact that it's not been raining. And the truth is yeah, we don't know how much tropical moisture is moving our way. What we do know is Saturday and Sunday rain chances are 10 to 20%. So we know that there's going to be more moisture around next week for a better chance of scattered showers and storms. The question is, will it be a widespread soaking rain, or is it just going to be an increase in our rain chances? We're not really sure yet. It's a little bit too early to know for sure on that one. All right, let's see what other questions we have. Christine wants to know how about the Keys next week? The Keys have a chance that some of this tropical moisture will move our way. Some of the computer models are a little weaker with the system. That pushes the system your way, so South Florida rather than Central Florida. And that remains a possibility. Again, because of the nature of this system, all possibilities are on the table, and there's a lot of uncertainty, a lot more uncertainty than is typical. So thanks for the question. I appreciate that. Kelvin wants to know, where do they think it will make landfall? Well, first of all, we don't know that it is going to be an it, right? We don't know if it's going to be a named tropical system. But more than likely somewhere on the west coast of Florida, just because that's what the prevailing wind flow is. Annette wants to know about how about Highlands County? Because we don't think it's going to be a strong storm, we don't think Highlands County is going to have to worry about strong winds with this system. I know you're somewhat scarred from Ian and Charlie moving generally in your location, and we've seen a lot more storms in Highlands County than we have in many parts of the state of Florida over the past couple of decades, actually. So I wouldn't worry too much about having a strong storm there, because I don't think it's going to be a very strong storm in the Eastern Gulf. And to get into Highlands, a really strong storm, it needs to be a very strong storm in the Eastern Gulf of Mexico, because that's to move over land, right? Brent wants to know, will wind shear be present when the system enters the Gulf or not? Yeah, wind shear is going to be present across the Gulf of Mexico. Hold on one second here. Let me just bring this back up. And I'm probably not going to be able to use this computer too much longer, because Rebecca is going to have to get ready for her show. But you can see right there, we do think there's going to be some wind shear, but it does look like it's going to weaken. So the question is really, how much is it going to weaken? Joe wants to know about the Spring Hill area. Same thing, too early to know. what kind of impacts we're going to see from a system that hasn't even formed yet. In fact, National Hurricane Center hasn't even really designated it yet. We just know that there's going to be something in our vicinity early next week because of the computer models. And Danielle asked about Tallahassee again, same thing. The European model would have you believe that a low-end hurricane is moving towards Apalachicola Bay, which would impact Tallahassee, obviously. But that's just one model scenario. The European has been changing. Every model run has changed. Last night, the model run had basically no storm. Now, all of a sudden, it has a low-end hurricane. You can bet that it's going to keep changing back and forth every time a new model run comes out. Okay. Alyssa just said they just designated it 4 minutes ago. Well, it figures they would do that right during the middle of my live broadcast so that I wouldn't be able to see it. So let me see. I appreciate the heads up on that. Let's see what we got here. NHC. Let's see what we got here. Let's see what they're saying about it. I'm assuming that the chance of development is not particularly high right now. But there it is. All right, they're saying a 20% chance of development over the next 7 days. So that is what I would expect to be typical the first time National Hurricane Center mentions it. But I'm glad that they're mentioning it, which means pretty soon we'll be able to do some things that we weren't able to do before. For instance, we can't get spaghetti models of all the tropical models until they designate something. So now that they're in the process of designating something, over the next couple of days, we'll be able to provide you products that we otherwise can't without National Hurricane Center kind of putting their thumb on the scale and saying, okay, this is an area we want to watch. All right, I'm going to take like 2 more questions and then I'm going to have to go because we have to get ready for the 8 o'clock show. Let me refresh the Facebook page and let's see. We'd much rather be getting something like a strong tropical storm or a low-end hurricane than we would something like Ian last year. So hopefully we'll get the tropical moisture. All right. So Melissa wants to know, so if it develops, would we on the Nature Coast start to get rain or winds? Yeah, certainly. If it were to develop, we would have to watch out for, wind and rain all across the area, not just the Nature Coast. Corey wants to know what the spaghetti models are. So basically, it's just essentially the tracks of every computer model that we have at our beck and call to help us forecast tropical systems, right? So that'd be the European model and the American model, the GFS model, the Canadian model, and then the hurricane models, like the HWRF model, and like the HAFS model, which is a new model. And so we just have a lot of different computer models, and we show you the spaghetti tracks, which is just essentially those lines that you see shooting in all different directions to kind of give you an idea of what the computer model range of uncertainty is and where the computer models are saying the storm is going. So I appreciate it. Thanks, Brandon, for saying tracks of storm. That is true. Appreciate that. Alyssa says the GFS is whack this year. Yeah, some years the GFS does better, some years it doesn't do as well. My money on this particular system is that it's going to be somewhere in between. And I don't say that just because that's the easy way out of answering the question of is it going to form or not. Just I've found that the truth usually lies somewhere in between. The European model all of a sudden kind of cranking up a low-end hurricane seems a little suspect to me, given that it didn't really have the system last night. At the same time, having the German model, which has been very reliable, show a bona fide tropical storm, but modest tropical storm, not necessarily a strong storm, leads me to believe, and the Canadian too, leads me to believe that that's probably where the smart money is right now. So Steven says, do we have a hurricane coming or what? Seems doubtful it'll be a hurricane, but we can't rule it out just because water temperatures are the highest they've ever been since we've been keeping records. So with all that energy there, it's not going to take long for a storm to spin up. All right, just 2 more questions, and then I'm going to have to go. But just remember that we're going to be now obviously following this extremely closely every second of every day, and we're going to be doing a lot more of these Facebook Lives. Place your bets, Chuck says. Yeah, it's a good time to place those bets. I don't know if it's better to take the over or the under. And Brandon wants to know, where's the possible storm at the moment? Well, right now it's located right around the Yucatan Peninsula, but on the Pacific side. All right, everybody, thanks so much for tuning in to our program today. And again, we will keep you updated and keep doing these live streams as conditions become a lot more clear. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Have a great night.